Girls' underwear is actually pretty comfortable. I don't know how many of you guys have ever tried wearing it, but it's actually not as bad as it seems. Now, I know I sound crazy for saying that and kind of zesty, but I'm gonna be brutally honest here. I might wear a pair of girls' underwear right now. I'm totally capping, but yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another super embarrassing, but I gotta say crazy story. Now, this story all takes place back in my high school year, and this was actually my grade 10 year. Now, in grade 10, I was any basic dude with a girlfriend. Yeah, I had a girlfriend back in my grade 10 year, and we're just gonna call her Susie for this video. Now, me and Susie around this time, we've been dating for like 2 months. Okay, me and Susie, we got along great, and honestly, a lot of people in our school knew about our relationship. I don't know why, but when you get into a relationship in high school, everyone knows about it. Like, your mom will know about it, your auntie will know about it, and every teacher will probably end up knowing about it. To the point where I remember literally like around the hallways when I would walk around, many people would ask me where Susie was, even though if I never actually knew where she ended up being at. It was really awkward and sometimes really cool, but in some ways, it really left a mark in my high school year because I was labeled as Susie's boyfriend for a lot of events that went on. It kind of took a lot to make my own name at some point in my high school years, but that's a story for a different time. But I will say this, over time though, when me and Susie were dating, one thing was for sure, me and Susie were very competitive. What do I mean by competitive? Well, basically, if we saw a couple that was doing better than us or doing cooler things than us, we'd always try to one up them. Like, for example, when Susie one time came up to me saying, "Oh, babe, like, they're going for like a movie night with all their friends and like, we should do something better." And when Susie told me this, I was like, okay, like, what do you want me to do about it? Bubba, just let me think of an idea. Just, you need to make sure you have your car to drive everyone. Okay, sure. What are we doing? And that's when Susie ended up asking her dad for his credit card and ended up renting out an entire theater just for us to watch a movie that none of us really cared about. But still, it left a mark in our high school year and it became something iconic that not many people could do. Now, obviously, everyone knows the competitive couple and like how it works and everything. And honestly, this went for a lot of our school year. But that also didn't mean that me and Susie were also competitive towards each other. Like, for example, I remember me and Susie, we used to have like races to who can brush their teeth the fastest, to who can beat their meat the fastest, and basically who can do things better and more efficiently. And then there was one specific day I remember so vividly, where I remember me and Susie ended up spending the night together and we did the Devil's Tango. And Susie ends up looking at me the next morning when we woke up and we were just looking for our clothes that were scattered all over the floor that we took off from that night earlier. And I look at Susie and I'm like, I bet I can get faster ready than you. And I ended up getting dressed super quick to the point where I literally just put on my sweatpants, underwear, t-shirt, and that's it. Boom, I was ready. As for Susie, well, she was still looking around for her, bra and her other, things that she wore and basically her underwear. Now, her underwear is a key topic because I remember when I saw Susie trying to put on her underwear, it took her a fat minute. And that's when I looked at her and I'm like, Susie, you're having a hard time there? You're taking a minute just to put that on. Baba, you don't understand how hard it is to actually put on girls' underwear, okay? Like, this is not a competition. Oh, come on, I made it a competition. You could do it way faster than that. Oh, you think so? Here, how about you try? At that moment, I remember she hands me her underwear and I put it on instantly. Did I put it on properly? Definitely not, because I have a lot of junk in the trunk. But one thing was for sure, I ended up putting it on and Susie just looks at me and scoffs. She's like, Baba, you don't understand how hard it really is to be a girl, okay? Like, wearing that is impossible. I don't know, it's not that hard. Like, I'm pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as easy as it seems, is what she tells me. And obviously, I'm like, bro, like, you're making this a way bigger deal. It's super easy than you think. And that's when Susie ends up telling me, Baba, if you can go 2 days with just wearing my underwear, I'll give you $500. $500 just to wear your underwear? Seriously? That sounds easier than it seems. Oh, you think so, don't you? How about you put it on right now and the timer starts now? At this moment, I already had her underwear on, so I'm like, sure, whatever. And then I ended up putting my sweatpants on and basically went on with my day. Don't get me wrong, the first 3 hours, I was pretty determined that I could handle this and it was a piece of cake. But it wasn't until I got to school where things started to feel uncomfortable. Like, for example, every time I would sit on a chair, I'm not gonna lie, the girl's underwear would go up my bum and it got super annoying to the point where I kept grabbing my sweatpants, trying to pull down the underwear that was, kind of giving me a wedgie. Obviously, people started to notice and they started laughing at me being like, oh, Bubba, do you got tighty whities on? If you knew what I had on, you'd be laughing at me. Obviously, I didn't tell them what it was, but I ended up just saying, nah, I'm having just issues with my pants right now. It's just, some tight sweatpants, I guess. I I have really no idea. I kind of came up with almost every excuse in the book, but it wasn't until like later on when rugby practice came around. Now, if you guys don't know, I played rugby back in high school, and rugby was like one of those sports that like is basically more competitive than football and more painful than football. Like, we don't have any of the guard pads or anything. We just kind of went in there raw dogging it and kind of just, you know, hopping on the field and doing the best we can. And I remember as I'm playing rugby and, you know, running with the ball and, you know, basically passing it and stuff like that, and in the rules of scrimmage, just kind of, you know, handling the way the game is supposed to be played. No joke, 80% of the time, my hand was trying to make sure the underwear wasn't giving me a wedgie. The amount of times I had my hands in my pants made it seem like I was there for Diddy reasons. So I'm kind of like, you know, concerned in my rugby practice, and I'm like, dude, this is getting so annoying. And it got to the point where my coach even noticed this and said, yo, Bubba, how about you get your hands out of your pants and start holding the ball, eh? What are you trying to do? Give people sicknesses or something? Oh, no, sorry. I'm just, you know, I got a problem. At that moment, a lot of my teammates started laughing at me, but I honestly just tried to ignore it because I knew at the end of this, I was going to win $500. And $500 goes a long way for a high school student. So during practice games, I kept like, you know, doing what I could as a left wing and caught the ball, ran it down, and basically did the sport. But it wasn't until after where I decided to be a bad sport. Because I remember partway through practice, there was a guy on my team that was a real annoyance. We'll just call him that for some reason, but he was really annoying. We're just going to call him Kyle for this video. Now, Kyle, for some reason, was super cocky and super annoying, and no one really liked him on our team. To be honest, I don't know why he was accepted into our team. I think his parents were like a huge donators to our school, so they just ended up like, you know, catering him as if he was like a baby. But no joke, Kyle was super annoying to the point where I remember midway through practice, this guy ends up grabbing my pants and pulling it. Not grabbing it, not like, you know, pulling it down. He just straight up grabs it and just drags me across the field to the point where he ends up feeling something in his hand, and he lets go and says, yo, Bubba, what kind of underwear are you wearing, bro? Like, what in the world? It left like some pink marks on my hand. Huh? What do you mean? At this moment, I looked at his hand and he ended up pulling like a thread from like the underwear that my girlfriend had that I had on. And I'm like looking at him. I'm like, oh, dude, like, just don't worry about it. Like, you know, I'm wearing some like new Supreme underwear, because I had to explain why there was like a red like string basically from lingerie in his hand. I remember Kyle looks at me and he's like, oh, okay, I felt really thin though. Just don't worry about it, you know, just don't worry about it, is what I told him. And I basically ended up walking off. At that moment, things got really awkward, and I'm not gonna lie, practice was finally over. I think practice being over ended up making things a lot worse, because right away we all ended up going into the change rooms. Now, a lot of things happen in the guys' change room at school, especially if you're in a team like rugby, soccer, football even. But I remember we ended up going inside the change rooms, and right away guys started taking off all their clothing and letting it raw dog hang dry. I'm not saying this is weird in any way, because we're all like, you know, humans at the end of the day. You know, seeing an eggplant shouldn't be as weird to you, especially when you're like, you know, mid through like your high school years. But I remember I was so scared to take off my uniform because yeah, I was wearing girls' underwear. I mean, like, why wouldn't I be embarrassed? So I'm looking at like my team and everything, and I'm kind of like, you know, hiding like in the showers, like, you know, trying to make sure no one really sees me, like, you know, change. And this is where things get really bad, because I remember Kyle decides to swoop around the corner being like, yo, Bubba, sorry about earlier today. What are you wearing, dude? At this moment, Kyle ends up seeing me wearing my girlfriend's underwear. He sees it full on, and at that moment, I ended up doing the one thing I knew I could do, and that was tackle him. I ended up tackling him on the ground with my girl's underwear on, and right away, other teammates started noticing there was a lot of noise happening in the guys' change room, especially in the shower area. So they start turning the corner, they look over and say, yo, what's going on here? Is this like some kind of weird kink you guys have? At this moment, Kyle looks at me and he's like, nah, man, like, he just pushed me, like, he just tackled me with his girl underwear on. And right away, Kyle just like ends up like pointing out my underwear that was literally on the ground, and like me and him both have our eggplants out at this moment. And you know, it sounds all really zesty and really gay what I'm about to say, but let's just say when the guys ended up seeing the girls' underwear on the floor, a lot of them got bricked. Kind of weird, especially since I had it on most of the day, but things get a lot worse, because I ended up picking it up and I ended up putting my sweatpants on, and I'm like, you know, going commando with the sweatpants on, and I'm like, guys, like, I gotta go. I ended up putting my backpack on, and I ended up just leaving the change room without even taking a shower or nothing. I just put on my sweatpants and put on my tank and just walked out. And when I walk out, I remember I started like, you know, heading towards like my locker, and right away I see my girlfriend Susie there. My girlfriend Susie walks up to me and she's like, so how's your day going, Bubba? Oh, it's fine. Oh, really? Well, how about that nice She ends up slapping my cheeks, and she ends up feeling that I'm not wearing underwear. And she looks over at me and she's like, babe, are you not wearing it anymore? No, I'm definitely still wearing it. And at that moment, she ends up literally just putting her hand down my pants. And yeah, I lost the bet. I lost $500 thanks to Kyle wanting to put some amazing spotlights on the fact that I was wearing girls' underwear. To be honest, Kyle started telling a lot of people that I wore girls' underwear that day, but not a lot of people believed him. And a lot more people believed that I got an STD instead. That did not help my school year, but to be fair, a lot of rumors ended up getting cleared up once I went for a test. And yeah. Overall, no one believed him. All I can say, though, is that the only person that believed it was Susie. And I guess all of you guys now, since you guys listened to this story. But if you guys would ever wear girls' underwear, follow for more embarrassing stories and click on one of the videos on screen. Peace out, guys.